Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon everyone. How are you coping up with online teaching and learning so far? Well, we need to do what we need to do, right? My name is Ku Nor Suriati, binti Ku Ishak, and I am currently teaching in SMK Batu 17, Padang Lumat. Today, I will be sharing with you some ideas and insights on how to conduct classroom assessment or pentaksiran bilik darjah PBD for English Language Form 3. Before I start, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Sektor Pembelajaran JPN Kedah and SSTP Kedah for this wonderful opportunity. I really hope my sharing today will benefit you in one way or another. So let's start the ball rolling. What is classroom assessment? This is a very basic information which you can refer to buku panduan pelaksanaan pentaksiran bilik darjah edisi kedua, page 6. Classroom assessment or PBD is an ongoing assessment in teaching and learning in order to obtain information about the progress, the ability, and the achievement of pupils. When we talk about formative assessment, we are actually referring to assessment for learning and assessment as learning. This assessment can be conducted continuously in teaching and learning. On the other hand, summative assessment is the assessment of learning, which the teacher will have to evaluate the pupil's growth of understanding after a certain period of time. Okay, there are 9 elements of classroom assessment. The first one is classroom assessment should be planned by teacher. You know your pupils better than anyone else, right? So you are the most right person to do the planning. Next, it should be systematic. It is important that you refer to the manual of classroom assessment so that you have better understanding of how it should be. Next is formative and summative assessment, just like what I've explained to you earlier. Pay attention also to the types of methods used in the classroom assessment. Classroom assessment is criterion-based and it should be focusing on students' progress. You should focus on their ability, not comparing the pupils. It should help the teachers to track the progress easily. Don't forget to do necessary intervention after you have completed your classroom assessment. It is important that you find ways to help your students. Last but not least, peer assessment and self-assessment is conducted to encourage them to improve from time to time. Of all the elements, teachers should really pay attention to the first one, planned by teachers. It is not supposed to be an ad hoc or something like this. Well, on one wonderful morning, upon stepping up into the classroom, you suddenly wanted to do PBD. It does not work that way. The planning is to help you in conducting the assessment with integrity. Here are some documents for teachers to refer to when planning the lesson. You should have with you the document standard curriculum dan pentaksiran Bahasa Inggeris KSSM Form 3, the close-up textbook, the scheme of work, and the panduan pelaksanaan pentaksiran bilik darjah edisi kedua. The content standard and the learning standard is derived from the scheme of work. You will also get to refer to the suggested learning outline and differentiated strategies in this document. You are to plan your lesson according to your pupils' ability and what suits them best. This learning outline is to help you to get the overall idea on how the lesson should be. For today, I am referring to page 43 of the scheme of work. For the lesson I am sharing later, I'll be focusing on the writing skills. The content standard I've chosen for this lesson is Writing 4.2, Communicate with Appropriate Language, Form and Style. And the learning standard I have chosen is 4.2.3, Produce a plan or draft of 2 paragraphs or more and modify this appropriately independently. From the SKP, we get to see the performance standards for writing. It should be on page 34 to 37. Please be sure to read the descriptor, highlight the important keywords and notes before you start planning the assessment. This is important in order to make sure teachers are well versed with the assessment criterion before awarding the pupils with appropriate performance level. I will show you how these keywords help you in planning your assessment criteria in later slides. The second unit in closed-up textbook, English Form 3, is Food, Food, Food. It's under the theme of people. I'm referring to lesson 19 from the scheme of work, and I have a mixed ability pupils in my class. The main skill which I am focusing on this lesson is writing, and the complementary skill is listening. So here is the page that we are going to refer to in close-up textbook. If you have your textbook with you now, you may refer to page 26 and 27. So the main skill, the content standard for this lesson is a Writing 4.2, Communicate with Appropriate Language, Form and Style. And the learning standard is Writing 4.2.3, Produce a plan or draft of 2 paragraphs or more and modify this appropriately independently. For the complementary skill, the content standard is Listening 1.1, Understand meaning in a variety of familiar contexts. And the learning standard is Listening 1.1.4, Understand independently longer sequences of classroom instructions. When we are reading the content standard and the learning standard, teachers might come across a number of unfamiliar terms. You can refer to the scheme of work, page 22 and 25 for these terms. For example, Writing 4.2.3, you'll see Produce a plan or draft of 2 paragraphs or more and modify this appropriately independently. What is modify this appropriately independently? Okay, it means pupils who can modify a plan or draft appropriately independently know what to look for in their written work. For example, spelling, grammar, and punctuation errors, as well as the structure of the writing in order to improve their work without always needing feedback from the teacher. The result is a second draft of their work that is easier to understand and contains fewer language errors than the first draft. And if you refer to listening 1.1.4, you'll see understand independently longer sequences of classroom instruction. You might wonder, what is classroom instructions? Okay, longer sequences of classroom instructions usually contain 3 sequences or more in the task that the pupils do. For example, first, match the sentences and pictures. Then, underline the false sentence. Explain to your partner why is it wrong, and then write the true sentence together. Teachers should use their own judgment on longer sequences of classroom instructions based on the language level and background knowledge of the pupils they teach. For this lesson, I've chosen task E to H. Please note that I've covered exercises A to D in the previous lesson. So what should they do here? For task E, the pupils are required to rearrange the descriptions based on the sample review given in task C. For task F, students are required to identify different types of a review, whether it is positive or negative. Task G, students are to identify positive or negative expressions from the list given. Finally, task H, students are to complete a review template based on the task given. These practices are to scaffold their writing skills before they attempt to the real writing task. So, after studying the scheme of work and the textbook for this double period lesson, these are the learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, pupils should be able to, number 1, identify at least 3 or 5 different parts of a review based on a sample given. Number 2, identify at least 5 of 10 positive and negative expressions of a review. And number 3, complete a draft of food review using the list of useful expressions. When we do our planning, make sure we take into consideration the suitable methods of assessment. For this particular lesson, the assessment could be done through observation, the oral assessment, and the writing assessment. Each lesson should start with something fun and interesting for pupils to be motivated. For this lesson, I decided to let them play a game in which they get to recall what they have learned in previous lesson. So here, pupils will play a game on the order of adjectives with shoulder partner. Note that this is the revision of the previous lesson taken from the textbook, page 26. So here is the main activity which I will be doing the assessment. Pupils are to read again the sample review on page 26 and complete parts of the review based on the descriptions given. So the method of assessment I use here is observation and written. The instrument I use here is exercises taken from the textbook. Okay, so here is instrument 1 for the assessment. This is from the textbook, page 26 to 27. The pupils are required to rearrange the descriptions based on the review given in task C. So in order to award them with appropriate performance level, I will be observing their ability to complete the task. Here are some suggestions on how should teachers consider the performance level for this task. If your pupils have limited or adequate ability to complete the task, they should be awarded with performance level 1 to 3. However, if your pupils are able to complete the task at ease with little or no support from the teacher, please consider awarding them with higher performance level, which is 4 to 6. So in order to make sure my observation is valid and the assessment is authentic, I have also prepared the pupil's assessment record. However, this is only a sample from my own lesson. It actually depends on your creativity on how to come up with pupil's assessment record. Please note that in PBD, we have a variety of ways to record written assessment. The evidence is not necessarily be only in the pupil's exercise books, like what we normally do, right? But writing activity can also be assessed through oral and observation method. You can ask your pupils to record videos or submit photos for your written assessment. Now, let's look at our second activity for this lesson. At this point, pupils will do a pair check, which they will ask each other questions from the exam close-up and exam task. The method of assessment here is oral assessment, and the instrument is the suggested questions and answer template. For high proficiency students, they might not need much guidance here. So teachers will only listen to their discussion and award them with appropriate performance level. However, for intermediate and low proficiency pupils, teachers might need to give them some supports, like preparing speaking prompts like this, so that they will have something to say or refer to during the discussion. Pupils will read the exam task and ask questions like this. Is this going to be a positive or negative review? And the partner will respond negative. What is the clue to your answer? The response should be very unhappy. What are other words you use to describe negative food or restaurant? So the response or the expected answers should be dirty, slow, rude, not delicious, and expensive. So can you now see how should the performance level be like? If our pupils have very little to adequate ability to express ideas and opinions on this topic, the performance level should not be more than 3. And if our pupils manage to execute the session excellently or with less or no support from teacher, please consider giving them performance level 4 and above. Remember, if you give them lower performance level, there should be some interventions for the pupils. And here comes the main focus of the lesson. Pupils now should be ready to complete the writing task in which they need to fill in the review template based on the questions in exam task and using the useful expressions given in the textbook. The method of assessment used here is written assessment, and the instrument is the review template. This is the example or the sample of review template I used for my lesson. Note that there are 5 paragraphs there, and if the pupils are able to fill in at least 2 items of the template, they are actually fulfilling the requirement of the assessment. You may have a simplified version of this. It depends on the ability of your pupils. So the lesson should end with pupil sharing some completed review with the class. So can you see now parts of the lesson which I have chosen to assess my pupils? It might look and sound complicated, right? But trust me, with proper planning and consistent practice, you will find the classroom assessment is such an impactful way to improve your pupils and your teaching, as well as your pupils' learning process. If you refer to Buku Panduan PBD, page 46 to 47, you will get to learn how to record and analyze your pupils' progress from time to time. There is no specific ways of recording the progress. It all depends on your preference as long as it is systematic, attainable, and helpful in doing the professional judgment for the overall performance as well as the suitable intervention in the future. Now, this is the most crucial and interesting part. How do you actually record the pupil's progress in learning? One way of doing this is through your own preferred way of keeping the track record. You may use the Microsoft Excel template to record your pupil's progress. You may want to have a name list with their progress in the teaching record book. You can also have sort of checklist with statement, marking symbols, marks, and grades for your pupils' work. And the progress report can either be in oral or written form. It includes the pupil's performance level, the anecdotes, and the suggested intervention. Well, we cannot predict what will happen in the future with this pandemic, right? It does not seem to be cooperating with us. Well, life goes on and teaching and learning should take place regardless of this battle with the unseen enemy. What should we do during this MCO? Yes, like it or not, we need to go online again and perhaps another phase of home delivery homework. Please put on some efforts in learning how to fully utilize the online learning platform such as Google Meet, Kahoot, and quizzes, just to name a few, right? And I am sure teachers know better about this. For the less fortunate pupils with limited access of internet, teachers should consider preparing some kind of learning modules. PBL is a great way of doing the assessment of 3 to 4 skills in one go. Imagine having pupils doing the compilation of famous food around the world, writing a review in the form of interactive notes, and cooking one of the menus from the scrapbook. You have the luxury of doing the reading, writing, listening, and speaking assessment in one project. I know this is not easy, but I assure you it is worth the try. And finally, you may want to consider doing the mixed method, online and offline assessment. Get your pupils to watch a video online where you need to prepare them with the link and ask them to write a short review in the exercise books. These are among the activities teacher can do during MCO. Pray that it will not last long because nothing beats the satisfaction of seeing your pupils face to face. Last but not least, I wish you all the best and hopefully my sharing today will give you some insights and inspiration to do better in doing the classroom assessment. With that, this is me, Teacher Suriati, signing off for today. Thank you. Para penonton yang dikasihi, sila isikan maklum balas program di pautan berikut.